Let's see if I have anything. Well, first of all, so happy that most, not most, all of us made to this up to now, are not affected by COVID and still, still here. And I'm not so sure how much I can teach tonight because my mind is not so calm. But I do want to say, begin this teaching that the recent passing of one of our teacher, Badu Rinpoche, and who had been one of the founder of KTT Monastery, along with my teacher, Kim and former President Tenzin La, and all the support of our Western Sangha members and I was fortunate that I went to see him. You know, I heard that he was quite sick and quite close to passing to nirvana, and so I went to there and pay homage, and I thanked him what Kambumbuche and himself and then everybody.
No thanks.
I mean, established this His Holiness Karmapa's seat in North America, and also continuation of his Dhamma activity, building and his center, and continuing his Dharma lineage, and of course, on at that time, excuse me, he really can't talk. He was laid down on his bed, but he was constantly reciting mantras using mala, and you can't hear any sounds, but the way he moves his lips is sound like reciting Kama Bachana, Kama Bachana, Kama Bachana. And every time, if the mala start to fill, he was looking for mala. So it's basically his consciousness or wisdom was already, so much focused on the spiritual level. Of course, as someone reincarnated and recognized by 16 Kamapa, there's no question. But I felt the environment, although they have a family there and you can hear sounds, etc. But middle of this condition, I felt that there was very transcending feeling. I feel like really transcending all these delusions, and so then next day he passed away, and then you may saw on KTD's schedule that we are doing puja every week, and yesterday I was at his center when they did the cremation, and because when you do cremation, you need to have 4 groups doing in 4 different directions of puja, and KTD was west, was doing Amitabha puja, and the fire puja, and Amitabha is the hardest and longest. So we have started. We have started the puja at about close to 7, and it lasted up till 3 p.m. And so we were hungry. But everything went extremely well, and there were, after finish, I went back, but I saw this beautiful rainbow, and so there's already puja planned at KTD for until 49 days, and Kunzo Pachina, his own center, doing everyday puja up till 49 days, and KTD is doing 1 day puja once a week. And So during my term, before I become former president, I kind of lived this difficult time of passing my guru Kembrumbuche and also his another twin brother, Dhamma brother, who supported to build the monastery, passed, and so although these two great masters lived differently, one was just such great example as a monastic, pure discipline, Kembrumbuche, and on the other hand, Badurumbuche, he had family and family of the family, so many family members, and his granddaughter, is just so cute. His little one. And so he was surrounded by family, but I could, a normal person who dies, with such family member like myself, someone ordinary, could be in trouble. But Sachi Rinpoche felt so different, and so I wanted to say that first, kind of get out of my chest, and and then tonight's subject, our famous. I always choose a topic that I cannot express or teaching well, but I don't know. It's just always pick up a topic that is so fascinating, like self-liberation. I mean, that is most profound and most I can't explain more than profundity, self-liberation. And tonight I would like to talk about self before we talk about liberation. And self in Tibetan, Da means that mistakenly or delusionally holding on to something that is fortunately that is not exist. We just hold on to something. We feel something. There's something to hold on to it, and because there's nothing to hold on to it, that's why we mistakenly holding or fixating on something that is never exist. When we experience fear, we feel this is very strong. When we experience depression, that is very strong. When we feel anger, it feels very dominating. When we feel any emotion, it's just so overwhelming. And so that is, self, because self is a sneaky and something kind of hiding into a place where, doesn't really have a location to hide. You feel like, somebody's constantly or forcefully striking us. There's striking anger, striking depression, striking fear, simply because we are so blindly believing all this I, yes, I, and then I did this, and I feel this, and such. And so the self, it's one of the example would be like, when you trying to grab something in this very, in the space, just trying to hold on to something, let's say a blind person person who cannot see, he or she feels there's something in the sky constantly, because you never saw what's in the space. You maybe sense, or you maybe expecting, you hold on to something, you grab something, and it's very tiring. It's extremely tiring and very delusional, mistaken, but because you can't really see it, you never have the opportunity to see it. So that's why you're constantly trying to grab or trying to hold on to something, and so exhausted this ongoing trying, ongoing effort, and that effort is so meaningless. Like we do, we we say that we have this fixation of I, and then we're trying to climb, fixate on it, to trying to hold on to it, and then everything else becomes support to experience more suffering. So the self, according to Buddha's teaching, self is a projection of delusion. It's projection of delusion, or projection of mistake, or projection of fault. Famously, you may heard this teaching so many times. For example, the famous example is like mistakenly seeing a stick as a snake in the dark. When I grew up in Tibet, and I used to I used to be a shepherd, and I sometimes, we have like over 100 yaks, and so I have to make sure everybody is there. But sometimes, they just run away, and so when they are missing, and then I have to go after them, and so because when you bring yaks back to home, would be before sunset, and then when you are looking for the missing yaks, and it's already dark. So even though you are familiar with your my own location, the mountain and the valleys, but because of your fear projection of your fear, your mind, and you constantly seeing something like they used to have a rock, or it seems like start to change into some kind of a bear. I mean, people in Tibet sometimes encounter and this wild bear, and excuse me. So I often used to searching for the yaks with my sister, or we always holding our hands and just a little bit. We both sweating and holding hands and just say, try not to say, but we both seen something. And of course, daylight, there's nothing. There was just a same spot. There's that little rock, or some kind of a little hill, or some kind of a prayer flag or something. And so self is like that. Self is we are very arrogant, we are very dominating, such, but unfortunately, we are not dominating anybody else, but we are dominated by this mistake, or this delusion, known as self. But excuse me. So the moment you habitually fixate on self, then everything is interdependent. So you naturally have that self and and other. So you see others, one self, myself, others. And because your self that you're experiencing as I is based on delusion, based on mistaken or ignorance, and it naturally creates a strong attachment to those who feel comfortable. It can be your family, it can be your neighbors, it can be your belongings, it can be your food, whatever you feel comfortable. And so you are attached to that, and whatever opposite of that, somebody is not so nice to you, and you get angry, and then if somebody, it's your pillow is not so comfortable, you're not like that pillow, or whatever uncomfortable, you kind of be like that. So there's nothing wrong, of course, providing what is comfortable, what is not comfortable. But the problem is that as long as you are attached to this temporary, temporary feelings of, happiness or unhappy, and as long as you are into this fixation, the fixation that is, constantly kind of dominate our life, constantly draining our mind. Because I give myself as an example. When I'm expressed, actually I wouldn't say when, every day when I, well, I have to give a time, I guess. So when I'm stressed, from beginning to the end of the day, and I feel so exhausted. I feel really exhausted. I feel like, but what did I do? Well, I just, well, I was basically taking care of my son. For 12 hours spending with my little son, and maybe that. But the other part of the stress that is so draining you, constantly, because when sometimes I get lucky to kind of check, what kind of stress I have, and how dominating this is, and what's the cause. Sometimes actually we are very stoop to to hold, to kind of stress yourself based on nothing, actually, based on just a very silly thing. It could be like as a family, it could be arguing over something in the kitchen area. Or you missed that spot when you did the vacuum or something like that. So it's actually a little bit silly, but so meaningless. So meaningless. So then I sometimes feel like, okay, we have a lot of arrogance, that we feel like what we say, what we do is superior than others, and what others, even like when we start to have a conversation about something, and it's always like, we have to, insert myself. You feel like whatever story you talk about, or I talk about, or whatever story I talk about has to be heard, or it has to make sense. So we have that, unchecked or unanalyzed feeling of arrogance and pride, which dominates even further. So my point here is that because the self that we always feel so special, I is mistakenly a fixation, a delusion that constantly dominate our life, but in negative way. unfortunately, the self is, and so in Buddhism, there are stages of practice with that self. Of course, for a beginner, if we say, oh, your self is not existent, you have to abandon it, it would be very extremely hard. But first you train about your this self. You can use this self who dominates or so much power. Sometimes like you have somebody or like someone is really powerful or such, and if you are able to make him or her become a friend, you can actually use in something to support you. Likewise, so this self, because the self you love so much, everybody say I love you and I love my family, but at the end we love ourselves a lot, too much. So how can we begin to kind of transform or begin to make this very dominant self into something helpful, like healing? The first stage for kind of beginners is that when we, as I mentioned earlier, when we have this fixation on self, naturally have others, myself and others. And so you use yourself as an example, at the beginning of the day until end of the day, what this self trying to do? Well, we're trying to be comfortable, we're trying to be happy, we're trying to hear somebody saying nice things about us. So we're trying to, see people smile, people's, treating us, and whatever we eat, make sure doesn't get sick. When you watch a TV, you're trying to choose your favorite topic or whatever that would be. So we can't constantly trying to be happy, doing, even like you have to harm other people, we have to hurt other people, we have to hurt somebody, we still means to be happy yourself. So that's how we're trying to support. But because we did this in Buddhism, life after lifetime, but we, let's don't talk about it. If you don't believe in past lives, just this life's example from the day we were born, which I don't remember actually when I was born. In Tibet, like when I have to ask my dad, when I was born, he says, I think you were born in the winter time. That's pretty much. Then I have to make up, what day I was born and, which month. So those are, and so the day when you were born and until you, die. So we just learn that whatever we do, good things or bad things, to really be happy, trying to be happy. But unfortunately, nothing seems like working. The more you want to be happy, it doesn't, experience that. And so one of the great master of Buddhism, Shantin Deva, said that look at the differences between Buddha versus sentient being. The sentient being like ourselves, we just work so hard to be happy ourselves, but still constantly experience suffering. But the Buddha, who just everything what he did is for the benefit for others, and he's the happiest, and he achieved enlightenment. So that means what Buddha said is that you take yourself as an example and not to hurt other sentient beings. So what we're trying to achieve during the day, what we're trying to receive from others, treating us well, feeding us well, saying things nicely, etc. This is exactly what other people are looking for. And so our words matter, our reactions matter, our actions matter. And this is not just you only doing for the other sentient beings, but make yourself happy. And the small example, and a very simple example, is that we constantly buying, shopping a lot. I think sometimes pandemic, if you are financially okay, you probably been on Amazon a lot or other places. You're buying so many things, make yourself happy, but and occasionally, we see that how suffering other people during the pandemic, and sometimes we just give $1 or $2 or maybe $20, donate to an organization, the Children Hungry Society. You feel different, actually. You feel that $20, donate to someone really need it, versus using the $20 buying something for you. Actually, it's different. So that's the first training, is that using oneself example, and I want to be happy, I want to free from suffering, and all others around, in your family and your neighbors and your country, everybody does, even like those the worst. I wouldn't say worst, sometimes influence is so big in our country or every place, and sometimes they do a lot of bad things. That doesn't really mean those individuals doesn't want to be happy. So every sentient being, every individual, every animal, every insects. I used to give an example when I did my retreat meditation, and I used to get visited by ants because my room wasn't so neat. So I have, food, little scraps everywhere. So ants visit me, and they're on my puja table, and it's just a whole morning while I'm meditating or doing prayers, reciting mantras, and just circulating on my table. This ant does not want to jump because it fears if he or she, how do I know, and he or she jumps, then they're afraid that they get hurt. But then occasionally I have to play in drama like this, right? I mean, that's kind of, okay, we finished the session, The moment this individual sentient being ant, A-N-T, ant, not my aunt, the moment it hears that bigger threat, jumps without hesitation, jumps from my table. So simply you are not in that little ant body doesn't mean this sentient being doesn't deserve happiness. So that is the first, before we talk about meditation, a little compassion kind of transformation is that if you are a couple or if you are family, sometimes it's nice to say things, nicely, mindfully, and it doesn't cost much, but it does mean a lot. And so that is, I think, pretty obvious when we use our human intelligence. When you go to a bathroom or other place where you have a mirror, and when you smile, it smiles back. And if you're frowning, it's frowning. So yourself is an example for others. If you want to be happy, the others want to be happy. If you don't, want to suffer, others doesn't want to experience suffering. This is doesn't have to believing in Buddhism theories or teachings, doesn't have to believe in other religions. It's just a fact that you can't deny. And then second, I don't know if I have that category one, first to second, but then the next stage, I would say, as real practitioners, of course, what I said up till now is also for practitioners, and those who are familiar with the meditation, self and self-liberation. And so self, as I mentioned, it's a mistakenly fixated on something that is never existed. It's just a projection of a feeling that you feel something, you feel you feel this is me, and this is I did such, but that feeling of domination of I is no way to discover when you begin to search through your head to toe. You search through your where is that really eyes exist? Where does that location? What kind of color? What is the feeling of or color of that feeling of anger? What kind of material, where that location, when you begin to search, then you feel a sense of a little transparent or liberation already. The moment you experience any feeling, depression or anger, etc., as long as you remember, as long as you begin to just watch, begin to examine, then this is the beginning of transparent, beginning of descending your egoistic into kind of liberation or emptiness. So basically, people who do meditation, and it's called selfless. Konza Dhammi means selfless meditation. I thought I have a tea. So self, now we know self, or it's just a very scary self. People even use this term, right, in our society, or in English, selfish. He's so selfish. She's so selfish. He's so selfish. And that means, only think about himself or herself. And people who say that also very selfish. And the people who hears that very selfish. No matter how we trying to hide, I think, but you're still selfish, because as long as you don't dig that, if you don't fix that bathroom, right, it smells. It doesn't just go away. But as long as you dig that, I don't think people dig the bathroom, but you just fix that, or I having some problem with my septic, or how do you say that?
Septic.
Max?
Septic.
Yeah,
tank.
Septic tank. I just trying to locate it. So it's kind of So once you dig it and then fix it, that's how the smelly, selfish projection dissolves. And of course, I think what we are lacking, unfortunately, it's not about lacking of teachings. There are so many teachings, so many great masters. What we are really lacking is just three things. One is like, does he want to believe? Or one is, doesn't believe, or even believe, doesn't have the courage, or doesn't have the diligence to practice. So that's how we normally fail, unfortunately. Because meditation is, has to have trust or confidence or convinced through inner meditation. So meditation shines, or meditation is extremely profound when you are experiencing a lot of suffering. This is the great test for meditation. Not like, the sun shine and everything goes well, everybody, your life is going well, and you just, do some meditation, feels good, breathing nicely, and outside there's the wind, there's sun, beautiful, feels good. It doesn't really improve your meditation. But when you experience like pandemic, I taught this a lot through my Facebook, and all teachings emphasized on this suffering, because suffering, as Buddha mentioned, suffering, as long as you recognize suffering, then there's always a way to overcome suffering. One of the method in Buddhism is meditation. So the more you're suffering, the self-liberation is more profound. So the second part I'm trying to, what I'm trying to say is that selflessness meditation for self, we kind of recognize the defects of self, and then second is you begin to examine the root of the anger, or root of depression, root of fear. And there's one teaching in sutras mentioned that the moment you have a feeling of fear, you must recognize this comes from anger. The more you're angry, your fear dominates. Your fear, experience even bigger and bigger. So, fear and anger are very related. And one of my, not my, but one of the teaching method is that as a practitioner, I hope you are not so tired of hearing the same thing again and again, but I think it's very profound, is that it doesn't matter how your life had been. It doesn't matter what life you're going to be. But according to Buddha's teaching, right now, right this place, right this moment, if you can't, listen to your heart, closing your eyes and listen to your feeling, whatever annoying happening in your heart, or whatever depression happened before, or what will happen, it does not affect your this very moment, this very place, this very presence. So right now, right this very instant, right this very your own place, whatever activity going on in your mind does not affect your very presence of your mind. This is what we call cutting illusion, cutting delusion. Forcefully cutting your delusion, forcefully cutting your illusion. As I expressed earlier, that I've been through a lot of suffering myself, losing my mother, losing my uncle, my teacher, losing my sister. They are dear to my heart. And then, when I was young, I'm still young, when I was young, a young age, came to this country and haven't seen family for 8 years, never heard of them. So there's a lot of feelings of stress, and then, came to this country as a monk, then, disrobe, now married, all this, stress, etc. But so sometimes I don't have, sometimes like you have so much stress, you have no place to escape, but sometimes that's the best for your profound, that's the best. The suffering makes you a better person. Suffering makes you generates compassion to others, who likes to experience suffering. Suffering purifies your negative karma. Suffering strengthens your meditation. Suffering is actually very, very useful. And there's no such thing, I know there's the tales that we read, ever happy after ever, forever happiness, the tale, but there's no such thing like that. Eventually, one way or another, we experience a lot of suffering. But some of them are really not necessary. As I mentioned, some of these silly things, arguments, couples, family, and debating over just nothing, just exhausting, so much energy. And in Buddhism, it's not just exhaust energy, but it's just accumulates tremendous negative karma, and which creates a lot of suffering. And so that is one of the meditation that I normally emphasize, is that if you are experiencing a lot of stress or anger or such, and then you have to kind of be this very moment, very, very present, very moment, this very seat, this very location. And if you kind of rest in that spaciousness of the presence, you feel the sense of liberation. You don't have to be a great master, but you have to put effort to do that. And peace comes through, peace experience within, not through domination, not through study, not through other sources, but has to come within. That within means that you have that innate moment or innate present in all the time, the suffering time, argument time, any time you can use it. So that is my next, I guess, self-liberation method, which I taught 100 times. Maybe you guys, oh my God, this guy is sitting same thing again, every time he appears. And then and the third, I don't know why I just saying first, second, third, but the other method that I think teachings, like especially mental training teachings, that you kind of inspiring to have more stress, you're inspired to have more depression, inspiring to have more, so you become more courageous. That when you just, I wish that I have more anger, I wish that I have more suffering, I wish that I have more for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so it doesn't mean that simply when you think like that, doesn't mean you have a lot overloaded suffering happens all of a sudden, but because of your courageousness and your aspiration and your aspiration to others, or compassion to others, and you are able to how do you say, I think I lost. Do I look like really lost? I mean, I lost in front of all teachings behind me. That's the teaching of the collection of the great master Kamachami Rinpoche, and I received all the teachings behind. So I was trying to emphasize is that during the pandemic, and it's so sad to see so many people dying and so many people sick, financially, all this suffering. And I wouldn't say that I did all the time, but I just wish to have all this suffering to me now. I want their suffering now, just and aspire to have all this suffering on myself. Just have compassion, towards them. Kind of a tunneling practice, I guess. Sending all your love, virtuous actions, and checking their suffering in you. And so, because during the pandemic, I couldn't do much. I wanted to do a lot of things, but couldn't help much. So I was basically using Facebook or WeChat or all the apps that I have. That's not always true. Not I didn't use all the apps, but I use WeChat and Facebook, just trying to bring some good vibe. It could be a a picture of my son, it could be very silly things. I mean, recently, I'm not sure if you saw a picture that I posted, and I just had put a diaper around my neck, that kind of pictures. People just they got a little laugh, a smile. They know that I'm a little bit crazy, but they got a little smile. So I don't know. So I think sometimes we have to make a lot of inspiration that, no matter, we don't picky, like, oh, this person's nice, I want to be nice. This person's not so nice, I don't want to. No, everybody, it doesn't matter, whether they are treating you good or bad, they all want to be happy and free from suffering. So I think one of the meditation could be, you're inspired to experience their suffering, inspired to take the, burdens on you. And you can start easily, that practice easily with your family. There we go. Don't think about everybody right there. Your partner, your loved ones, and who constantly giving you, you feel that they sometimes give you a hard time. But it could be on inner struggle. That's what I feel. Sometimes I struggle with my family, and I feel like, oh no, I'm just I'm making myself trouble, not somebody's doing it. Because when you are stressed, when I'm stressed, when I'm not happy, then that feeling or that environment changes. So it seems like agitate everybody. So anyway, I don't want to take too much time, and I probably ran out of what I have to say. So I spent about an hour, and I would like to give you some, time to ask questions, whatever question you have. You can lift up your audio, and then you can ask question.
I have a question, Lama, about fear.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that in the my work, a lot of people that come to me, there seem to be, even before the pandemic, they really struggle a lot with anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
worry. And even though you had said that there's usually anger connected to that, from my experience, sometimes these people, either they're really disconnected from their anger, or it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be different. Um, and sometimes it seems harder for people to deal with it than even anger, because anger is so obvious to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes the anxiety is around their children, and they're worrying all the time about their children. And of course, worry is part of being parents, but too much worry is not really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could talk a little more about that.
Yes. I think anger, depression, and fear, these three basically so inwardly connected. It's almost impossible not to connect those emotions. And of course, because of we call depression, depression is more like a dull, sometimes not as sharp as uh, anger, then anxiety, because as long as you have fear, naturally generates anxiety, and frustration, which brings the anger. Of course, anger, sometimes we recognized as something, all of a sudden you just so angry, right? But anger has many types, as what Buddha taught is that one is called tsipa, means burning. It's not like a exploring feeling of emotion, but a burning feeling. Like everything burning. It's like it's so becomes so sensitive. If you are very sensitive, means that you are angry. You may not explore like yelling somebody such, but that is, we call tsipa or agitation. And then regarding with worrying, I mean, this is sometimes I think absolutely people reason to be worried about the future and the children and the family, and this is worry itself. Sometimes worry itself is not really totally wrong, because you have to worry about. I know about this family situation. I myself, or we worry. Time to time, or this we worry with this, that, and you love your family so much, your children, and so there's constant worry. But one thing, what there's one Shantin Deva mentioned in his teachings, which is actually very useful. He said that if there's something you can fix, then nothing to worry about. And if there's something you really can fix, then worry doesn't really brings you any, change. So I think what happens to us is that sometimes we don't really analyze which one's beneficial, which one's not. We just following the feeling. One of the meditation I always remind people is that when you wake up in the morning, this is, I think, some students heard this 100 times. When you wake up in the morning, one of the meditation in Buddhism is that, I'm so happy that I'm still breathing, I'm still alive. I can breathe, I can believe, I can see my eyes, I can walk, I can move and I can smell. You don't think about anything else. Just first think that I'm just so happy. If your question is God's, bless, Buddha's bless, whatever you believe in, but it is really true miracle that you are still alive. Because I experienced, still experiencing that sometimes when you forget this gratitude, when you wake up, the first thing when you wake up, we have this natural tendency to worry about something, right? Or worry about the day. You don't think about, I'm still alive. I'm just so happy, sunshine, or it doesn't matter, if it's cloudy, it's still very beautiful. How beautiful the environment can be, how beautifully it trains your mind. Because sometimes if your mind is very calm, then things that bother in the past does not bother you. And when your mind is not calm, things that really make you happy doesn't make you happy. The favorite coffee doesn't taste good this morning because it has to do with your mental projection, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it has to have some wisdom. It is worth to worry about. If there's something that really we can do it, if there's something we can do it, then maybe shouldn't worry too much. If there's something we can't do it, well, maybe there will be opportunity. We are able to accomplish what we looking for. If not, I mean, in Buddhism, we also use this karmic condition, which means that if you have a lot of suffering, you want to do something, you want to accomplish something, you can accomplish it. It's something has to do with what you have done in the past lives. Maybe you didn't do good job. You're constantly having a lot of fear and anger. It's something has to do. You maybe harmed other people. And one of the evidence is that as long as we are not tamed our mind, as long as we have anger, this is the evidence, or this is the sign that we definitely harmed, because that's the sign, something like that. But it's interesting, like when my mother was present, and when I was, when we were together at home before I went to the monastery, we have this. I mean, my family, 12 family members, I had 10 children, and sometimes she wasn't really such a scholarly or such trained meditation, but she had this special, natural born, or just, we are like everybody's Buddhist, so we have this natural practice. For example, when before we go to bed, we go out, we go to a bathroom, which is everywhere outside. As soon as you come out with the black tent, then the bathroom is everywhere. So you can see the stars, and so I used to have like nightmares. My mother used to say, "Oh, you recite this mantra, for example, like Guru Rinpoche mantra, and then after you recite a few times, then blow the air into your heart, and then you'll be fine. And there's no nightmare." And so every word she said, was just for us like a medicine. And so we took, okay, mother said that, okay, that's it. So we did that, and it worked. And anything what she said worked, because so what is my point? I forgot what was. Please help. I was talking about what?
It's something to do with fear, I think. You were
Oh,
talking
fear. Oh, okay, fear. Something to. I have this blackout myself. What can you do? Any other questions?
I have a question, although it's sort of off topic. A question about reciting mantras.
Yes.
Okay. Frequently, I have chickens, and I have to let them out and let them graze. And so I will recite mantras for yidams while I'm watching them. And it's sort of a timing thing. But when you're reciting a mantra, is there a visualization or some other activity that we can do rather than just standing there and reciting the mantras, like visualizing the mantras traveling out across the universe, reaching all sentient beings or something like that?
What are you doing with chickens?
The chickens have to go out. The chickens want to go out
Okay.
and they
Who doesn't? Okay.
they eat grass and bugs and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Well, I think how we do in Tibet is that my sister, my mother, when they work with yaks, we have a lot of yaks, and they constantly reciting any mantra or any recitation, while working with them. And I think if you are able to recite like Mani Padme Hum, like with melody, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, something like that, right? So you are able to recite verbally and that are not too loud. If you're too loud, they are not able to do their thing. So you can recite, they can hear it. So I think that is sufficient, even you don't have any visualization, because they can hear. They need to hear your mantra recitation, and you can mainly focus on them and the bugs they eat among female.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. John, it must be your bedtime. John and Dana,
Hello.
it's getting late. I normally go to bed really late because my work I do nighttime, all the emails and all email. I have to think about everything, and then I go to bed like I won't tell you. Not the best. Danielle, what are you doing? Moving around like butterfly.
Yes, I was outside listening to you on my cell phone, and now I'm back at the desk.
Oh, how do I know? You're listening outside. Just joking. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
There is another Shantideva phrase
Mhm.
that I've been using where when something happens that I normally would think is, oh, that's really bad, I think of that phrase about how because of my past karma, I've brought on the
Mhm.
experience myself, and it's easier for me to accept it that way. So that's, it's hard, but it's had a profound effect on me as far as just accepting that if something happens that is uncomfortable and something that I would say is bad, that I think,
Mhm.
well, I invited this because of my past action.
I think that is something I take as an example. Really, that's beautiful because generally people who doesn't know about karma or such, the first reaction is upset, right? Why? Oh my God! Why this happened to me? Why? So this is Buddha's teaching is called dharma. I mean, dharma means dharma means healing, kind of, and whatever he taught, it doesn't matter. You don't have to learn all volume, but if you learn only one sentence or 4 sentences, but if you really acknowledge and put into your practice, it heals. And just like you have mentioned, when things doesn't go well, and that happens. Oh yeah, this is karma that I've created, and I have to accept. And in addition to that, when you kind of trying to advance our practices, that I wish that all others who are going through this, may I able to take their suffering out of compassion. I don't want them to experience something like I'm going through. So that is based on compassion and get based on less self, the less selfish. And that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I think I have to, next time I have to use something in my background, like the yaks that I have, the 2 horns. I have one yak called Chikara. His horn is like this. It's just so you can do meditation posture. If there's such thing, you can then sit on that. It's just so big. Oh, those. Oh yeah. Okay, maybe let's see. Oh, never mind. Switch back to speaker. Okay, I don't want to mess with my screen. How's Judy? Judy is not here, right?
Jody is here. She's the other Max.
I'm here, Lamala. I'm here. How are you? I just don't have my video on.
Oh, I see. Which one? Oh, okay, Rama.
See,
Rama,
'cause
there's some
I signed in as Max. I forget.
very, very
You have two
sneaky.
Max.
So,
Wow.
I have a question. Actually, I'll ask a question off topic,
Okay.
but it's about
Mhm.
compassion.
Mhm.
So tonight, so my dog 2 times in a row got sprayed by a skunk, right?
Yeah.
And I was so mad at that animal. Like I just didn't want it around anymore because these little
Mhm.
baby skunks are all over everywhere. And I was like, I caught myself just feeling so like
Mhm.
I wasn't having compassion for the skunk because I was mad at it, because I had to
Mhm.
deal with the dog thing and that. So I guess what do we do about that?
Well, first of all, that's the protection that they have. Skunks, they experience this threat and fear, and this, anybody who use, everybody says self-defense. I mean, this is the self-defense they can use. That's the only way, and nobody wants. I mean, this is very obvious that skunk doesn't want to get hurt, want to be happy, and who knows? Maybe dog just messed up. Whose fault who? They say. So basically, we have to really acknowledge that, because I experienced similarly when I was little. I used to be shepherd, as I mentioned before, and I didn't like wolves because wolves used to kill my sheep. And then slowly I discover, and when you grow up, study more about teachings, especially their life. I mean, that's how they live. That's the natural thing, right? Wolves, they kill and they have to eat. Like if we, we just kill anything. I mean, we have so many choices out there to eat, but we also kill these innocent animals and we eat like that. So I mean, then later I feel, oh yeah, so it's just a different concept. Speaking of skunk, when I did retreat, at the beginning I feel, the smell is not so good, but then slowly the smell actually pretty good. I kind of miss it now. Skunk and raccoon, they fight all the time, and then skunk does what he does, and later on I feel, well, actually this smell is not totally bad. So I know, if you spray on dog, it will last for a long time. I definitely understand that, but I think at least we can kind of get rid of frustration or mad towards the skunk, and maybe there's a way to prevent that.
Yeah, I hear that. Kevin sprayed it with water. Only a little,
okay.
only a little bit, just to make it go away because there were so many of them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you do. I mean, that something like that. Doesn't really. Okay, now I can see. Okay, Max is there,
Oh no, because
and
I
then this is
signed in.
Santa,
I signed
and
in.
then
on-
Max G. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens when I run the Zoom for us, and it just goes in as Max. But
Tomato juice is bad for dog. Oh, really? Tomato juice, you can wash the dog. Wow, that's
I
good
don't
to know.
yeah, I don't know if they do that anymore though. Oh, no.
It can't hurt.
That's the self-liberation meditation.
Well,
Vinegar.
how are the bears up there at KTD these days? How are those are the bears coming around a lot?
Believe it or not, actually, I plan to go back to KTD. I haven't been there for a long time because we, shut down KTD and totally closed, and I didn't have vaccine, and but I have planned to go back once my vaccine is fully immune. Yeah. And yeah, we had bear before, and I always my philosophy is always like, please, I understand, bears sometimes very nice, but it's very unpredictable. They have to be in wildlife. We don't want to hurt them, because bears sometimes have the habit, if you very nice and give food to them, and then they go to next place, not so nice, they will call place and end up, they can be dead.
Yeah.
Lamala, when do you think that
Yes.
KTD is going to open again? Any ideas?
I do have, I suppose I can, if I don't say I don't have idea, then I lose my face right in front of you. I have an idea, but I won't tell you. Actually, that's a, kind of, that's supposed to be a joke. Sometimes we, Tibetan does not joke very well. So, in terms of plan, how we went through, and I want to make sure everything done precisely. I want to make sure everybody vaccinated, everybody's immune at KTD. And these days when we do puja, we have Kamal and retreat lamas come over, we do puja together. So let's see what will be next. And because, some of us, half of us got Johnson. So I want to make sure, everybody's safe, because we've been through so much lockdown for a year, and then you don't want to, all of a sudden, boom, and just everybody go there. So I will see. Like Rinpoche, my teacher, used to say, I will see. So we'll see. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I guess that's pretty much, right?
Mhm.
And